Hey everybody, coming at you live from out in the woods where I feel my most happy. Alright, today I got a few odds and ends that I'm gonna show. Some things some friends gave me, and I'm gonna make some coffee. And then what so many people asked about in that one video, the mystery of John's Mountain. Now, I'm going to get to the whole story there at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and lay the groundwork for John's Mountain. When I was in that video with kayak and I pointed up towards that hill, that's not necessarily John's Mountain. That is a hill. But that is like the beginning, that is the edge of the mountain range that's called John's Mountain. And John's Mountain is over 24,000 acres, and it's a range of several mountains. And it encompasses 4 different counties. So it's a huge range, and there's a lot of areas there in what they call John's Mountain. And so it's all in the state of Georgia, but it covers 4 counties. You know, like I say, it's a big place, 24,000 acres. But I had mentioned that I will never go up there again, and I never told the story on video, but I had mentioned the story in 3 or 4 different times in comments in the past, but I never said anything about it. So after we fool around with some of the things in my backpack, and after I make the coffee, then we're just going to settle in, and I'm going to try to get my mind straight on telling the story, because the story, just telling it doesn't sound that interesting. But you got to get in the mindset of being there and have it happen to you. That it's more of a feeling than an exciting story, you know, like, because I mean, this ain't like the movies. This is my experience from what happened. So, all right, let's find a good spot. I think I found a good spot right over there that we're gonna set up and make some coffee. If you can see, there's like a dip in the land up there to where there's like a creek forming. And I don't know if it forms an underground spring right there or not, but this whole area is a low spot. And so there's some areas right here where the rain and the water and the runoff has cleared off leaves. So there's a nice muddy spot right in there. I hope I'm pointing to it right. Can't tell much from the glare from the camera. But that right there, that looks like a nice spot to set up and build a fire. On closer observation, I found an even better spot, because right there where the creek starts to dip down, I can sit right there and have a place to hang my legs instead of having to sit Indian style. So I'm going to clear out a couple of those thorns right there and have a good place to sit. Oh, speaking of thorns, let's see, speaking of thorns, somebody had asked me, they said, what is good for, what is good clothing for wearing to not get snagged on thorns and stuff? And so I sent them a link on it, and for me, it's these BDU tops. And the cheapest ones that are very extremely tough are made by True Spec. As far as being affordable, I just recently got one of these in coyote, and I got one in tan, so I wore it today. This thing's so nice, and it's got all these pockets up here on the side where you can keep stuff, and then it's got like you can make pouches for like keeping your compass and attach it to this thing. And then like you can put your cell phone inside here and have it right up here close to you. They're real nice. They're kind of hot in the summer, but for fall or spring, they're great. All right, enough of that. And no, I didn't get this free. I had to buy it. Now, first things first, I always carry a ground pad. So let's undo this little jewel here. See what we got. Where's that zipper? I don't need these anymore. You can take these off. I'm just out here just enjoying the day, rambling, talking, bumbling around. I think it's here. Yeah, here it is. All right. I always carry some kind of a heavy, this is a part of an old raincoat, an extra heavy duty raincoat. It'll give me a nice place to sit down. It's like a PVC type deal, so I ain't got to worry about poking a hole in it or nothing. Alright, can you see me there? Yeah. Alright, so let's see what we got in the backpack here. Zip this part back up. Unzip this. There, here we go. Let's pull everything out. Alrighty. I got all kinds of things in here. I should have got at her earlier before the sun was here. Alright, first things first is we're going to make a fire and we're going to make some coffee. Where to start? Okay, I'm going to procure some wood. I brought one of my homemade little grills right here, which I'm going to set up right here. Reach right over here and grab a stick for a minute. That'll work. Dang. Ah, that's still in good shape. Look at that. That thing's stuck to my collar. And I'm going to clear out a little spot right here. Get these leaves out of the way. Alright, I got me a nice little dirty spot right here. And it's always a good sign, a good place to have a fire, if when you pull the leaves away and it's a nice muddy spot and the ground is moist and the soil is kind of wet. Alright, so let's pull this little grill out right here. Got 4 little legs in a baggie. Pull that out. Now let's take these things and stick them in these little lugs. Now people always ask, anytime I break out my little homemade grills, they always ask, they're like, oh, why don't you make the threaded connections? Well, if you make threaded connections with stainless steel, it'll seize up real bad. I mean real bad. Once you put the heat to it, it'll seize up really bad. See that? Alright. Now, let's see about this. Oh yeah, oh perfect. Look at that, I can see you. Oh, I shouldn't sound that excited, but I tell you what, when the sun goes away, the filming becomes so much easier because I can see everything. Okay, now, next thing's next. I've been wanting a titanium cup for a long time, and so I kind of got to looking around, and this one is a one of a kind because not only is it a cup, okay, it's a titanium cup, you got a handle and you got a bell where you can hang it bushcraft style if you want to. It's also got a French press. Ain't that awesome? So, you know, all titanium cups are about the same, but this one's killer right here because it's got this press in it for making, you know, one person coffee, like if you're on the trail. And it unscrews here. You can take this off and just have the lid on it if you want to. So let's set that to the side. Oh, and it also comes with this thing right here to keep from burning your lips if you want to just use it as a cup, you know, to drink straight out of. But anyway, let's see. The name of the company is Wood Not Gear. Okay, now I got to say something. This reminds me of something funny. People ask whenever I'm talking about my poncho liners, and people call them a whoopee. Without it, you will be cold. This right here, Wood Not Gear. Okay, without this, you would not have coffee. All right, enough of that. Enough of that. But I guess that's kind of an easy way of remembering this thing. But anyway, let's see. Now I'm not happy. No, yeah, I'm okay with it. This leg is kind of sticking out right here a little bit. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to use that to make coffee. And I think this is cool having this because instead of having to have instant coffee or those little dippy bags, like those little Folger bags look like a tea bag, you can actually have real coffee and you can have your choice of it. Alright. And there's a guy in Washington that sells this stuff called Bushcraft Blend. Ain't that cool? I ain't even opened it yet. I don't know what it tastes like, so I'm gonna try that out. And okay, now as we are procuring wood, here's the other thing that I want to talk about. I'm going to show you these two right here, okay? Now, everybody knows what this is. This is a Mora, okay? I love Moras. Moras are the most awesome knife ever made. You can't beat them, all right? Well, a friend of mine, Marlon, I've been friends with him a long time, 8, 9 years, I think. He was telling me that Walmart carried a ripoff of the Mora, and he said it's cheaper. He said it's not as good, but it's not bad. And I looked at my Walmart, and there wasn't one. So he bought one, and he sent it to me. And it's similar to a Mora, and I'm going to try and see if there's much of a difference in it, and I know there will be. The main difference is the Mora has a Scandi grind, and this has a primary bevel and a secondary bevel. Not to mention, for some bizarre reason, the blade is down real low. So I'm going to get a little bit of wood going, and we're going to make a few feather sticks and see about that. So, all right. Let's leave all this stuff here. I'm not going to talk about that other stuff. Let's go get some wood real quick. As you can see, there's firewood littered everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's wood all over the place. So let's go down there and saw a piece off. Then I'm going to split it so that I can make a couple of feather sticks, just to see how they feather. Easy peasy, nothing to it. Alright, so this piece here doesn't have any knots in it. It's got a natural split to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that natural split. Let's go through that. Go through this. Now that's pretty rotten. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Yeah, there's an edge there that I can use for feathering. This has got an edge I can use for feathering. I'm going to use a tinder bundle for my fire, for my flint and steel fire. Yeah, that's a good edge. But I just want to see how those things are going to feather. Alright, so let me go get those knives and see how they do. Alright, so here's the Mora. Alright, nice slow feathers, okay, Scandi grind. Now, this may look similar, but it's different. It has a primary and a secondary bevel, which I think makes it harder to use. So let's take the same piece of wood and flip it upside down. Let's see how it works. Man, I gotta say, that's not that bad. Huh. Well, you know. Well, that's something else. Well, Marlon, I tried it. It's not too bad. Now, I will say, don't take this the wrong way. I am still a Mora guy. I love Moras. It's all I'll ever buy. But, you know, if you can't order a Mora, or if you need one like for a weekend trip, you know, that's not too bad. I'm pretty amazed. Huh. Well, but Now buying that is not fair to Mora. You need to be die-hard, loyal Mora fan. Alright, matter of fact, to redeem myself, I'm going to wear my Mora for a little while. Alright, now let's go over here and take a peek at a radical new type of charcloth that my friend Marshall sent to me. I haven't seen this anywhere on YouTube, but it's a cool idea. So back in my little brew area, I got all my wood piled up here. I got a tinder bundle that I made. It's in here. I'll get it out in a minute. Because to use this, I found some grass on the way here that I may or may not use, I don't know. And then the tinder bundle, I got it on the way here because I didn't know how dry everything would be. But everything, turns out everything is kind of dry. So what we're going to do, let's ease you down here so we can take a peek at our grill. Alright, so what are we going to do first? Oh, let's lay some wood under here. Put a little bit of wood right under here. Now, something that I do sometimes, especially when I'm real close to a fire like this, is I will take a big rock and I'll put a big rock between me and the fire. Let's see, I can turn that around that way. Yeah, that'd be perfect. See, I like to put a big rock between me and the fire, and maybe a couple of them beside it. That way, I ain't got to worry about the flames coming over here and burning my leg or burning my little mat that I'm sitting on. So it's just a little bit of extra insurance right there. So let's do that. Okay, now let's look at the cool charcloth stuff that he sent me. Rolled charcloth. Now I think what I'm going to do, I'll come up kind of close to the camera right here. He sent it in this package, in this Altoids tin, but he had it vacuum packed. Alright, and what he did, he had the silica gels on the outside, but I decided to put them on the inside. So, what we're going to do, it's rolled up denim. And he said what you do is you light the end, and then the end kind of acts like almost like a cigar. And you use it to ignite the tinder, and you can either use this up or blow it out and use it again. Now, I have not tried any of these, so I'm going to try one. Let's pick one out and try it. And I think this is a cool idea of keeping silica packs inside. I may be wrong, but I think it's a cool idea because it keeps the moisture out. So, let's go over here. I'm going to go ahead and get my tinder bundle ready. I always carry this one particular bag that's got a Tyvek liner, and it's what I use for picking up dry stuff to make tinder bundles. So I've got this. I done forgot the name of this. Maybe it's a maypop head. That thing right there will take. That thing will take a spark easy. So what I like to do with it is I like to put it down inside the tinder bundle. I put it down inside, and then when that thing takes a spark, I can just cover over it like that. Now it's a very windy day. Well, not very windy. I mean, it's windy for doing splint and steel, so we're going to find out how well this works. Now I'm going to get some of this grass that I may need. I'm going to wad some of this up for in case I have to set it on top of it. Sometimes you can kind of break the fibers up to let it set like this. Alright, so I'm going to set that to the side. Now let's pick out some flint and steel. Oh, he also sent me this little pocket bellows. I may or may not use it. I don't know. It's too windy of a day, but what you're supposed to do is hold it down towards the fire. It's a telescoping rod, and what you do is you hold it down towards the fire and you give it a shove, and it's supposed to push air down into a directed spot. I may or may not use that. I don't know. I might. We'll see. Well, we got to see how this goes. I may not even get this stuff lit. Let's see. Can't get that one open. Oh, here's something. I'll open it up with my coffee scooper. Alright, there we go. Alright, a little bit of flint and steel, so let's see what I can do. Alright, now how am I going to hold this? Let's see. Let's put this like this. Now if I was going to waste this whole piece of char cloth, this char roll, I would just set it inside there and blow and use the little telescoping thing. But I'm going to try to touch it to it and blow it and transfer an ember and then blow this out and keep it. Just to see if the idea will work or not. That's not a good side. I haven't recut any of my... That's not a good piece, I don't think. There's not a sharp edge left on here anymore. See, it's hard to hold this and not crush. That's not a good piece. See, I'm already crushing it because I'm trying to hold everything and get a spark. That's not good. Let me find another piece here. Maybe there's a piece in this. Maybe there's a piece in this bag. I need to go through all this stuff. I got these little Charcloth kits everywhere. I mean Flint and steel kits everywhere. And you have to go through from time to time and nap them, and I don't do that great of a job on it. See, this is falling apart. Yeah, I'm just going to stick the whole thing in the tinder bundle, I bet. See, it's hard to hold this tight. Alright, now the edge caught. You're supposed to catch the end. I'll try to let that glow a little bit. Oh, now you can see the fibers on the inside are glowing from the wind. Okay, let's put this in here. Oh, there it goes. When you blow on it, you can really see it red. I'm just going to set the whole piece in here because that's layer after layer after layer of Charcloth. Instead of one layer, it's layer after layer after layer. Now let's watch and see what happens. Where's the grill at? Right here? Okay, the glare's back. Main camera. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Easiest flint and steel I ever did. Woo, there you go. Oh, it's burning up. Put some grass on top. Alright. That's a winner in my book. Get some of this. Get some sticks on here so that we're not wasting it. Man, that's awesome. That is so much better. So much better than just one piece of Charcloth. Having a roll, because it was layer after layer after layer. And you don't necessarily have to, you know, you don't have to light the end of it like a cigar. Now I'm going to experiment with that a little bit more. I need to go back through all my flint and steel kits and re-nap some of them so that I'm assured of a sharp edge. That way you ain't got to put the death grip on that piece like that. Alright. So I think what I'm going to do now at this point is I'm going to try to keep this fire going by feeding in all these little sticks and twigs. I'll put a little bit more of this in there. One of the good reasons why I didn't use all this. Put that that back in there. A little bit of insurance. Drop some more sticks in. Whew. Yeah, because it almost went out for a minute there. I think we're going to be going good in a minute. Yeah, no matter how small the fire on a windy day like this, you seriously need rocks around your fire. And I don't do it often enough. I should show that more often, but I don't. And I really should. Alright. Now I think I can start putting some of these other pieces on. Because they're so dry. I think they're going to catch on. Alrighty. Alright, I'm going to feed this some more and get these bigger pieces going. The way the fire is going, I decided I'm going to put a few more rocks there. Oh, it's starting to get kind of hot. I got to let it die down a little bit. Now what I'm going to do, wearing the Nomex flight gloves. They're flame resistant. That way I can reach in here and put these rocks in here. I ain't got to worry about burning my little hands. Alright, so all I got to do now is just kind of wait on that to die down, and I'll keep adding a little bit of wood at a time. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this big piece right here. Just like that. Now I don't want to bring the water to a boil. I just want to heat it up good, because with coffee, if you bring it to an actual boil, you boil for 30 seconds to 1 minute, and that is it. Because as Morris Kohansky says, if you go longer than a minute, you'll not only extract everything you can out of the coffee, but you'll also extract the bitterness out of it. So what I'm going to do, instead of using a hey, look at that, a baby scorpion. Let me see if I can catch it. There he goes. Whoop! Just lost him. Dang, you don't see them every day. There he goes. He's running pretty fast. There he is. Oh, I keep dropping him. Now I can't find him. Oh well. Fire's going good enough now. Look at that, there's a thorn. Thorn I missed. Now the way this is pretty cool. It took me a minute to figure out how to open this bag. It's got a pull tab with a little seal on it. Seal thing. Oh, it smells so good. I bet it's gonna be good. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is, instead of using a grinder or grinding it ahead of time, a lot of times I will carry whole beans, and I have a thing called a bean beating bag. It's a quadruple stitched Cordura piece that's got some very, very heavy nylon fabric inside it. It's 3 layers. So what I'm going to do for this size, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 scoops of beans. Now the more coarse it is with a French press, the more coarse it is, the better off you are. So I'm going to take, yeah, that feels about right. Alright, I'm going to put 3 in, and then I'm going to go over there and get a rock or a piece of wood and beat these. Well, actually there's a rock right there. Let's just do it right here. You want to fold this over a couple of times. Let's see, can I get that on camera? Yeah. That way I ain't got to get up and walk away. See, that's about as coarse as it can get right there. Alright, so let's dump this in. I smashed it up real good. So what I want to do now, let's go ahead and put this on. And then I'm going to put some water in here. And then while that is, I don't know how long it's going to take, but then I'm going to tell the story of John's Mountain, or at least part of the story. Right there should be good. Alright. So I'm going to scoot this over to the middle where I can get everything I can out of the fire. And let's see how it does. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do, well, let's see. Now I'm not going to put a lid on it because I want to watch it. As soon as it starts bubbling, that's when I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to count 30 seconds, and then that's when I'm going to pull it off, when it starts boiling. Alright? Alright, so let's get down to telling the story. How about that? Alright, I got you down here low so that I can reach down on this lower camera mount, the ground mount. That way I can just reach over and grab you and pull you over and show you the coffee. Alright, so on with the John's Mountain story. I think I've tortured you long enough with all of my rambling and showing you this and showing you that and all that kind of stuff. So, alright, the year was around 1989, 1990. I was working in Calhoun, Georgia. I remember. It was because I worked there from 89 to 90, so it was sometime in that neighborhood. Let's see, one more piece of wood. Let's put that in there. Alright, so it was between 89 and 90, working in Calhoun, Georgia, and I'll never forget the people that I worked for lived in Dalton, and they had a son in elementary school in Dalton, and they were in Calhoun every day. So I'll never forget, they called and they said, we have to leave at 12 o'clock today. We have to be at the school for something. And so they're like, I think we're going to close shop up today at 12. You got a problem with that? And I said, no, I absolutely have no problem with that. So I told Mom, I called my mom. I was living with my mom then. I wasn't married, still living at home, free as a bird. Enjoying life, camping, goofing off, fishing, working on hot rods. So anyway, I tell her, I say, I'm not coming home tonight. I'm going to go camp out tonight. You know, I always called home checked. So, okay, no problem. So I go, and there's an area, and I'd heard about it before, and there's an area, and one of my commenters had mentioned it. It's a place called The Pocket, and it's got a creek that goes through it. And matter of fact, I think the creek may be called John's Creek because it goes through the John's Mountain Range. So I had heard of it before, and so I went over there and I fished for a while, and then I went over towards The Pocket where it was an actual campground. I didn't like it because there was a lot of people there. So then I went around the corner and drove up a mountain, and I wound up in an area that was over into Gordon County. It was between the Gordon-Floyd County line. And I found a sign, and I don't remember the sign, but it was one of those like wildlife or national forest signs. And there was a picnic table over there and a trail. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't know this was here, and I don't know the name of it. But it was over there past The Pocket, way deep past Armurchie, Georgia, over in Gordon County. And so I hit the trail, and I had a tarp, and I had a cheap sleeping bag, and I had some rope. I had all kinds of stuff. And so I went hiking, and I hiked and I hiked, and I thought, this is going to be great, you know. And then I finally found this spot. Let me move the camera here for a minute. Let you look at the coffee. I'm hoping that the sun is not going to be too bad on this when I edit it. So anyway, I went and I found this spot. Okay, And I sat down my backpack, and I remembered it was kind of like this. It was a breezy day. The wind was just barely blowing. And so I remembered I set the camp up. And this is a hard feeling to say, but you know the feeling like when you ate something bad and you're about to puke? It's a feeling, and you know it. You know it's a feeling. Okay? And, dang, the sun's right behind me. I think I better change camera angles, because I bet this won't even edit. Let me change before I start setting up camp on my story. That is so much better. Because the sun is that way, and I think the sun was aiming directly into the camera, and like I say, I can't hardly see anything in that viewfinder anyway. But that was just the prelude to the story, you know, of what happened that day that I remember, and how I went about getting there. And so anyway, this is the interesting part. And you know, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of die-hard people that's going to think I'm some kind of a psycho after I tell this story. But people kept asking, did you see Bigfoot? Was it Bigfoot? And honestly, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if this involves Bigfoot. I don't know if it's some kind of spirit in the woods. I don't know if it was a ghost or a witch or just my imagination. I don't know. But anyway, before I talk about setting up camp, I see this is simmering. Let's see if you can see that right there. Still simmering. I'm not going to add any more wood because I think the second that comes to a boil, it's going to be ready to drink. Alright, so now all of a sudden the smoke comes. Alright, go away, smoke. So I start setting up camp, okay? Now, like right now, what feeling do I have right now? Okay, my feeling is right now, there's nothing that way, there's nothing that way, there's nothing there, there's nothing there. I am about 2 miles in, and there's nobody here. Okay, this is during the week, it's not the weekend. Nobody's hiking here. It's not hunting season. There's no one here, okay? So how do I feel? I feel calm. I feel perfectly fine. I can sit here, I can stare at the camera for hours, and it doesn't bother me one bit. But now, as soon as I got there and I pulled my backpack out, and I was unpacking everything, I had a nervous feeling in my stomach. And I kept looking. You know, like when you're somewhere and somebody's watching you, that's the feeling. And I was like looking in all directions, and it was the feeling. And I kept setting it up, and I set up this shelter, okay, and it was not warm weather, it was cool weather, so I was sleeping on the ground. I wasn't worried about, you know, scorpions and black widows and creepy crawlies. So I sat down. I had some, I like some plastic, and then I had like a foam pad and a sleeping bag and a fleece blanket, just stuff that I used to always carry, just, you know, ordinary type trip. And back then, old Chef Dave had ramen noodles and oatmeal, nothing fancy. So, you know, just enough to keep myself full and occupied. But I wound up setting up the camp, and the whole time I was setting the camp up, I was just, and I got more and more nervous the more my mind started going. And so I started looking around, and I got to the point where I was just about spinning around because I couldn't stand still. I could not turn my back to anything in the woods. And at this point, I hadn't heard anything, okay, but it was just a feeling. So, okay. Finally, that night, you know, I made some ramen noodles and I ate them, and the whole time I ate them, I had my tarp shelter to my back, and I was looking around the whole time. So the moon was starting to come out, which was great, and I thought that was cool. I kept my fire going, and I remembered I laid with my head outside the shelter, and I remembered I kept looking up at the moon, and I kept looking at the moon, and I kept seeing, you know, these leaves. It was a gentle breeze. These leaves were blowing, and they were making the moonlight, you know, like sparkle. And I just thought to myself, I thought, I'm not going to worry about anything being out here. And oh, there was no cars parked at the end of the trail, and I had done hiked in, I don't know, 5 miles maybe. It was a long hike, and so I was relaxed, and I thought I should be by myself. And so here it is. You know, these were making the moonlight kind of trickle, and I was just sitting and I was watching it for a minute, and then all of a sudden, you know, and I was listening to the animals, crickets chirping, owls hooting, all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, all of the animals got quiet. totally quiet. And I thought, man, that is so weird. And I have never experienced that before. Usually all night long I'm hearing crickets, and I love the sound of an owl. And for years it took me a while to get used to the screech of a raccoon or a bobcat at night. But they make a lot of noise, and once you figure out what they are, there's nothing to be scared of. Okay, so I'm laying in the shelter, all the animals get quiet, and that's weird. That's real weird. And then I hear a rustling in the leaves and a little bit of extra wind coming in one direction. Okay, now it's not like there was a freight train coming through or a gorilla stomping, crashing, booming, twigs snapping. That didn't happen. I heard, and so I jumped out of the shelter and I looked, and I was a nervous wreck. And at this moment, I thought to myself, I want to leave. But then I thought, nah, you know, I've slept in hammocks and swamps. I've slept in I've built beds out of vines and bushes and slept on top of them. You know, I'm Dave. I don't get scared of nothing. Why is some wind and some leaf rustling scaring me? So, the leaf rustling, like shuffling, started moving around me in a circular direction, and then it stopped. And there were still no animals. And I watched it for a minute. My breathing got up, you know, my pulse went up, started getting scared, and then it took off again. Loud rustling, not a bunch of stomping and crashing and banging, almost like something very graceful was moving through and moving a lot of leaves silently. And I was a nervous wreck by then. At this point I thought, should I leave, should I stay, should I go? That's still simmering. I'm gonna wait till it comes to a boil. I don't want a full boil, I want it to simmer. Simmered coffee's better. So anyway, it goes back in a circular pattern around me, and then it stops, dead silent. No animals, no owls, no crickets, nothing, no chirping, nothing. And then I'm sitting there watching it. My breathing's getting up, and I'm getting scared. Okay. Now this shouldn't be boring if you're thinking from my point of view of what I was seeing and what I was feeling. And then all of a sudden, the trees started shaking in that area, and I could hear and I could see shaking going all the way up to the top. And I ain't talking about loud, violent shaking, branches breaking and stuff. And then as the trees went up and were shaking, I literally watched over my head. I watched over my head. There was a trail going through the trees, shaking and wobbling and shaking and wobbling. And I watched these trees shake over to there. Okay? At that point, that is all it took. I ran back in there and I grabbed up my sleeping bag. It was brand new. I grabbed my backpack, anything that I could instantly grab, anything I could grab, I was putting in the backpack, and I put one pad over my shoulder, and then I wrapped the sleeping bag around me, grabbed what I could, and I took off running. And as I took off running, I was turning back behind me and looking, and this is weird, the biggest tree I'd ever seen started wobbling on its way down. And everything else was silent. Everything was wobbling. One tree, everything else was still. Wobbled on its way down. And I didn't hear a real loud thud or nothing at the bottom. It was like leaves, lots of leaves in the area rustling. So I don't know what this was. I mean, people tell stories about Bigfoot, and they talk about stomping and crashing and cracking and branches breaking. And you know, if this was a Bigfoot, it sure was graceful, because there was no loud thuds or cracks, but it was just like a graceful, like, I don't know what it was. So I took off running, and I can't believe I didn't get a thorn or a branch in the eye. There was branches hitting me all over, and I was running, and the only thing that I could recall was the moon. I kept the moon to my right side, okay, and I remembered from the way I went in. I kept the moon on that side, and I kept going and going and going and going. And bad thing, I kept going, and I was running down the trail, and nothing happened for, I don't know, 10 minutes. And the whole time I heard something behind me moving around. So I turned around, put the moon to my left side, and started running down the trail. And I was running down the trail, and every once in a while I would stop, and all of a sudden I stopped, and I heard owls, and I heard chirping, and I heard crickets, and everything was nature again. So I started walking at this point. I felt like I was dehydrated, and I got to looking around. I'd left my canteen behind, and so I kept walking, and there was the sign. Past a picnic table, and got my car and left. Never went back, and I never will go back. And I don't know what it is. Y'all can guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's see how this French press is going to work. All right, that's the story. That's what happened. I don't know what happened. I can't explain it. And I always thought to myself, I thought, I ain't never going to share that story. But you know, it'd almost be like closure of some kind for somebody to say what they think it is. So, you know, put it in the comment section. All right. So, and I don't think, several people said you should tell that story by campfire at night. And I don't think I could have told it at night. I really don't. I really do not. You know, now I have a nervous feeling now about it. So, enough of that. Let's get back to our wood knot coffee maker. I hope this camera is doing okay, because I noticed the lens is completely covered in pollen, which is bad. So now this right here, if you'll notice, if you'll do anything like this, any kind of cowboy coffee, or if you know you happen to get something like this or this particular item, I'm telling you, if you'll let it simmer to almost boil, or just let it barely boil, it will be better coffee. It will be much better coffee. Now I've got some flames coming up here. This thing simmered for a long time, and it's so hot that I can't hardly touch it. And I was wanting for it to bring it to a boil, but I don't think it's going to go to a boil. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and press it and drink it. So let's put this in here. And let's press it down. Now I'm going to let that sit for just a minute. If there's any fine particles, they'll go to the bottom. That ought to be long enough. So let's pour it in. See how it looks. Ah, it's kind of weak. Let me get it in the cup. Yeah, it's a little weak. Well, I'm going to pour just enough in there to try it, and I'm going to set it back on there for a little while. Let's see. Because I got to go to work in a little while. I can't hang around here all day. Let's pull that back out. Yeah, I think I'm going to let that boil again. Set this upside down. Well, that's a very weak coffee, but I'm going to try it to see if it's got some kind of flavor to it. It's got a very good flavor. I can tell it's weak, but the flavor is very good. I just put a little bit in the bottom of the cup. I think what I'm going to do, set this over here. I want to try to get this to a boil real quick. I got some big flames here now, so what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to put a couple of smaller twigs under here and try to get it boiling to see how it's going to taste. See, it's such a windy day, I don't want to get the fire too roaring. But I almost had it to a boil a minute ago. You got to be careful with a container this small that you don't want to boil it over. Whew, it's hot fire. It almost came to a boil. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's steam coming off of it. Alright, with steam coming off of it, that's good enough for me right there. So let's take this thing and let's press it back on. I bet it'll be a lot darker now. There you go. Let's see. Now let's see if this stuff's any darker. It's done. Well, I'm gonna leave that in there. It may help cool it off. Let's pour it and see. Yeah, it's a lot darker. Yeah, that actually looks like the right color for coffee. Alright, so let's try that. I'll put that back on there to keep that thing warm. You know, it's cool. You can actually get 2 cups out of this thing. I think you can. Which would be perfect. That'd be good for like me and Nick. So let's try it. Oh man, that is fantastic. So much better than instant. I'm gonna let that simmer. Look, an inchworm. All kinds of nature. Get off me. Mess up my cool coyote BDU. Alright, in closing, another exciting video. That's delicious. I'm not even going to make any of that coffee at home. I'm going to save it just for carrying out on camp. Because I just drink whatever at home. And see, if you don't let it boil, the second it comes out of that cup, it's ready to drink. It's not too hot. In closing, wait a minute, before I close, real quick, I got my big boat running and tried to go out to the island where I'm going to build the tree house. And I got almost halfway, and there's logs all across the creek. So it's going to take some effort for me to get back to that island. I'm going to have to bring a chainsaw with me and cut up some of those logs and rope to them and pull them out of the way so I can get to the island. So that's the update on the island treehouse. And matter of fact, there's no name for that island. If some of y'all feel like naming it, you know, come up with a name in the comments section. That'll be pretty cool. Okay, now in closing, okay, that Walmart knife, it ain't bad, but you know, I'm going to keep my loyalty to Mora. Because I love Mora. I'm a Mora guy. I'm going to continue buying Mora. But, you know, for those of you that don't have access to Mora or Amazon or can't buy one, or, you know, you're at Walmart, that's actually not a bad knife. But anyway, like I said, I'm loyal to Mora. Charcloth. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you for the Walmart knife, Marlon. And Marshall, thank you so much for showing me the idea with the twisted charcloth. That's amazing. Instead of having one flat piece, when you've got it rolled, you have layers. It's fantastic. You got to give that a try. Roll up some denim and char it. Fantastic idea. Wood knot. Good company. Always wanted a titanium cup. Found that one with a press. That's awesome. I love it. It's cool. Wood knot gear. Now for the story, the Johns Mountain story, I told it as truthfully as I could, and I didn't bend the truth to make it exciting. You know, there was no booming, banging, crashing, no growling, no gnashing of teeth, no Bigfoot howls, no beating on trees like they do on Animal Planet, and you know, all those other stupid shows that show Bigfoot. Kind of reminds me of my philosophy on those stupid TV shows on like Discovery Channel, Travel Channel, and all them. It's like a book, okay? The difference between a book and the cover, okay? The shows are like the cover of a book. They're really cool to look at, but they don't teach you nothing. You have to actually open the book up and read it, which the TV shows don't do for you. So, anyway, that was the story. I didn't pump it up. That's exactly how it happened. That only happened one time. I've never experienced that in my life. Don't know what it was. I ain't got a clue. Hope you enjoyed the story. You know, if you have to, repeat that story around the campfire or at Halloween for the kids. Scariest part is it's a true story. All right, well, I'm going to finish my coffee and I got to pack up and I got to get out of here. So, until then, I shall see you in the next one.